Okay, so in this project, we're going to be building a photo gallery theme for WordPress. Now, before we get into anything that has to do with WordPress, I want to just create the layout in HTML. All right, and as I said in the introduction, we're going to be using the W3 CSS framework. All right, so first thing we're going to do is create a new folder, and let's call this, we'll call it photogenic_HTML. Okay, and then in there we're going to create a couple files. Okay, we're going to create index.html. We're going to create a style.css file. And we're going to have a folder called images. Okay, and then one more thing, we're going to have another HTML file that's going to represent the single image. Once we click on one of the images in the gallery, it'll take us here. So we'll call this single.html. Okay, so let's open up the index page with Sublime Text, or of course whatever you'd like. And we're going to just get a base HTML structure here. Okay, in the title we'll say photogenic. Now, since we're using this W3 CSS framework, we have to include that style sheet. So we're just going to use the CDN here. So we'll say link rel equals style sheet. And then href is going to be HTTP, and it's going to be from the W3 schools website. We want to go to /lib and then /w3.css. Okay, we also want to include our own CSS file. So that's style.css. Okay, now that's really all we need in the head. So next thing we want to do is let's create the header. Okay, so we're going to use the HTML5 header tag. And some of this stuff might change once we are actually building the WordPress theme, just to adapt to the WordPress conventions. So this header, we're going to give this a class. Actually, if we take a look at the documentation here for the framework and we go to containers, it should have headers right here. This is what we want. Okay, we want this. I'm just going to copy that, put that there. Alright, so let's just make sure that everything's actually working so far. So we'll open this with Chrome, and there we go. So we have our heading. Now what we're going to want to do is we want to use the grid system. Alright, so if you've used this, or if you've used Bootstrap or Foundation or any one of those CSS HTML frameworks, then you know what the grid system is. Basically it gives us 12 columns across, and we can set certain divs or certain elements to span across a certain amount of columns. Alright, so if we go to our documentation and we go to the grid, you'll see here the syntax we need, which is this. So what I'm going to do is just copy this row, and we're going to put this right in the header. I'm just going to replace this for now. Okay, let's push that over. And then what we want to do is, for this div here, we're going to change this to L9. This is for large 9, so if the browser is stretched a certain width, this will kick in, and then medium, this will be if it's smaller. But we're going to just put the same for both 9 columns, and then this one here will be 3. Alright, we can get rid of these paragraphs inside of them, and this one is going to have the heading, so this will be an H1, and this will say photogenic. And I just want to put a span around the word photo because we're going to make that a different color. Okay, so that's the heading, and then on the other side we're going to have our input. and that's going to have its own class of w3 input. Okay, we'll give it a type of text, and then we'll give it a placeholder, and that'll say search. Alright, so let's take a look at that. Okay, that looks good. I do want to bring the search down, so let's go to our CSS file, which is right here. And let's see, what do I want to do? We're going to say header, input, and let's do margin top. We'll say 15 pixels. Okay, there we go. So that's our header. So next we want the sidebar and then the main area. So we're going to use the grid for that as well. So what I'll do is copy what we have here. Okay, I'm going to put that down under the header. Okay, now as far as the columns, we're going to just switch these. This one's going to be 3 and this one's going to be 9. Okay, because we want the sidebar on the left. And then we can just get rid of the content inside. Okay, so for the 3 column, we're just going to have a list of categories. So let's do UL, and we're going to give it a class of W3 UL. And then inside that, we'll have LIs. Okay, with links. This one will say nature. And these are just going to be categories. Whoops. Let's say people. And we'll say abstract. Okay, so let's save that. Take a look. Okay, so there's our categories. Now we want the background to be black and the text to be white. So let's go in our style sheet and just add some core styles here. Okay, so first thing we'll do the body, and we'll give it a background of black and a color of white. Alright, and then for the links, I want to take the underline away, so we're going to say text decoration none. For our LIs, I don't want to have any bullets, so we're going to say list style none. Okay, for the input, we want the text to be a dark color. So let's say color 333, and that should be good. Let's save that, and there we go. Now for the main area, we're going to put another grid inside of this one. Alright, so we're going to need 3 images in a row. Okay, so what we'll do is let's grab this again, this row with the columns, and we're going to put this inside of, you want to be inside of this div. Alright, so we'll paste that in and then get rid of the content. Okay, and then we're going to change both of these to 4. Alright, and then we're going to need one more, so I'm going to copy that, paste that in. Okay, so that'll be 3 columns. So we need an image inside of there, and then also the text underneath. Now, as far as the images go, you should have those in your project files. I'm going to put them in right now. Okay, so these are just some black and white images. I'll show you them real quick. Okay, and they're just named 1 through 6 JPEG. Alright, so let's go back to our code editor. And what we'll do is, let's put in our image tag, and we're going to point to each one. So this will be source, and then that's going to go to images/1.jpg. Alright, and then we'll also have a paragraph underneath, which I'm just going to put some sample text in. Okay, so we're going to need to do this for all of our columns. Okay, and then we're just going to change the number here to 2, this one to 3. Okay, so that should give us 3 across. Okay, it's not seeing them. Let's see, images, source. There we go. Okay, now what we need to do is set the width of these images to 100% of their container, because right now they're busting out of their container. So in the style sheet, we're going to say image, and we're going to set the width to 100%. Alright, let's see what that looks like. Okay, so that made them all fit nice and neat. So in order for us to get more, we're going to have to put in some more rows. So what I'll do is I'm just going to copy these 4 divs. I'm sorry, these 3 divs. Okay, we'll copy those and just put that right underneath. And then we'll just change the numbers of the file names here to 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so now we have 6 images. Now down at the bottom we just want a simple footer, so let's go down there, and we're going to go after the last div here and then say footer, and then just put in a paragraph. We'll say photogenic, and we'll do a copyright symbol 2016. Alright, so let's save that, and then in the style sheet we're going to say footer, and we're going to do a text align center, put a margin top of 40 pixels, and a border top gray, and then solid 1 pixel. Alright, and for, let's see, I want to center the text here as well. So what we're going to do is with each div with the 4 columns, I'm also going to put a class of pic. Alright, just so each picture div has its own class. Okay, and then what we'll do is in here we'll say dot pic, and let's say text align center. Alright, so we'll save that, and now we have our text aligned. We also have our footer. So in the next part what we'll do is we will implement the animation, and we'll also create our single .html page.